Ranger Alex Ward stood at the doorway of his remote cabin on the edge of the Darkwood Reserve, coffee cup in hand, watching the grass ripple under the sun. Then he saw movement, a golden shape emerging from the tall grass. At first, he thought his eyes deceived him. But as the figure drew nearer, his heartbeat began to hammer against his ribs. A lioness was walking toward his cabin. She wasn't stalking or roaring. There was no aggression in her steps, only purpose. Her powerful frame moved with a deliberate heaviness, every stride slow and weighted. And hanging from her jaws, limp and fragile, was a lion cub. Alex froze. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat. Decades of training told him this was a fatal distance to hold. No ranger should ever stand exposed before a lioness, least of all one carrying her young. But she didn't advance and attack. She stopped just short of the wooden porch, lowered her head, and gently placed the cub down on the step. The little body twitched faintly. Its tiny shoulder was streaked with blood, and its breaths came in short, shallow bursts. The lioness raised her head, locking eyes with Alex. The look in them wasn't wild fury, it was desperation. Raw, unmistakable. It was not a predator before him now, but a mother begging across the divide between species. Alex felt the air leave his lungs. Everything he knew about behavior, risk, instinct, shattered in that moment. He took a trembling step forward. The lioness tensed, but didn't move. Her muscles rippled beneath her coat like drawn bowstrings, ready to strike. But her eyes pleaded, "Please, all right," Alex whispered. "All right, girl. I understand."
All right, girl. I understand.
He knelt slowly beside the cub. The smell of blood and dust filled his nose. The wound was deep, a gash across the young shoulder, edges torn. Likely the result of a male lion's attack. The brutal purge that sometimes happens when a dominant male seizes new territory. Alex slid his jacket from his shoulders and wrapped the cub gently, feeling the faint flutter of its breath against his palm. Then he stood and backed into the cabin, never turning his back to the mother. The lioness followed to the doorway, stopping where her cub had lain. She pressed her head against the wooden step and stayed there, eyes fixed on Alex through the open door. Inside, the ranger's small cabin transformed into an operating room. His hands moved with calm urgency, washing, disinfecting, stitching. He cleaned the wound carefully, binding it tight enough to close, but loose enough to breathe. He injected a broad-spectrum antibiotic and rubbed the cub's chest to steady its heartbeat. Outside, the lioness waited. Not a sound came from her, only the faint rustle of the wind through her fur and the weight of her presence like a silent guardian. Hours passed. Alex worked until his hands cramped, whispering under his breath as if his voice could will the cub to live. "Stay with me, little one. Just stay with me." When he finally leaned back, the cub's breathing had steadied, faint but consistent. The battle for the night had begun. He set a small heater near the wrapped cub, maintaining its warmth. The lioness never left her post. Every so often, Alex caught the reflection of her eyes in the dark, 2 amber lanterns burning just beyond the doorway. Through that long night, Ranger and Mother kept vigil together. One inside with medicine and hope, the other outside with faith and patience. When dawn broke, its light spilled across the floorboards in soft gold. The cub stirred, letting out a weak, rasping cry. Alex exhaled for the first time in hours. "You made it," he murmured. "You really made it." He stepped outside, exhaustion flooding him. The lioness rose instantly, muscles tightening. But when he opened the door fully and lifted the small, breathing bundle for her to see, her tension melted. She crouched low, eyes flicking between her cub and the man who had crossed every natural law to save IT. It was time for the next step. The cub needed more care than his cabin could provide. Alex secured it in a small transport crate lined with blankets and gently placed it in the back of his Jeep. The lioness growled once, low, warning, maternal. Alex spoke softly, voice steady. "I'm taking him to help. I promise." He climbed into the driver's seat, expecting a roar, a charge, but it never came to as the Jeep rolled forward. The lioness followed, across the savannah, through shimmering grass and morning haze. She kept pace, never closer than a few meters, never farther than 20. Her golden form shadowed the vehicle like a silent escort. It was an act of trust no textbook could ever explain. When Alex reached the veterinary station, The staff froze. Dr. Anya Rhodes, head of the facility, rushed out. Disbelief etched across her face. She followed you. She hasn't left my side since dawn, Alex said quietly. While the cub was lifted inside, the lioness waited outside the gate, pacing but not crossing the line. Her low rumbles vibrated through the air, not threats, but calls. Inside, X-rays confirmed Alex's worst fears. The cub's shoulder was fractured, the wound deep and dangerous. Without surgery, infection would take him within days. The team worked fast. Under anesthesia, the cub's small body lay fragile on the table. Dr. Anya's hands moved with practiced precision, aligning the fracture, stitching the torn tissue, closing the wound. 2 hours later, the operation was complete. When Alex stepped outside, the lioness was still there, still waiting. He wanted to tell her it was over, that her child would live, but words meant nothing here. Only presence did. He sat by the jeep and waited with her until the sun set and the savannah dimmed into violet shadow. The next morning, he returned to find the cub recovering, groggy but stable. When it was time to take him back, Alex drove carefully toward the cabin. The lioness was gone, but he set the crate down on the same step where she had first placed him, and for a long time, he waited. Nothing stirred in the grass. No sound came from the acacias. At last, Alex whispered, "You trusted me. That's enough." He carried the cub inside. The lioness's silence, he realized, wasn't abandonment, it was thanks. She had left because she no longer needed to watch. Weeks turned into months. The cub, healed and strong, was eventually released back into the wild. The day he bounded away into the tall grass, Alex felt a quiet closure settle in his chest. The wild had taken him back. Life had moved on, until one late afternoon, Alex was driving his aging Jeep along a lonely dirt track miles from camp when the engine coughed and died. He tried restarting it. Nothing. The radio crackled but failed to connect. He sighed, stepped out to check under the hood, and froze. The savannah was too still. Then came the sound, low laughter, coarse and chilling. From the high grass, a clan of hyenas emerged, their mottled coats glinting in the dying light. Dozens of eyes locked on him. The cackles rose, circling. Alex darted back into the Jeep and slammed the door just as the first hyena lunged. The vehicle rocked with impact. The pack pressed closer, scratching, biting at the tires, their cries rising into a feverish pitch. Panic clawed at his chest. There was no help coming soon. Then, cutting through the chaos, came a roar that split the air in half. The hyenas froze. Out of the acacia shadows, two shapes charged. A lioness, sleek, golden, unmistakable, and beside her, a young male lion, his mane just beginning to darken with age. They hit the pack like thunder. The hyenas scattered, tripping over one another, fleeing into the long grass with shrieks of terror. The lioness and the young male stood their ground, tails lashing, shoulders heaving. The male roared again, deep and commanding. The savannah fell silent. Alex sat motionless, heart pounding. He didn't need to guess who they were. The lioness turned her head slightly, and he saw it. A small tear along her left ear, the same mark he'd noticed while treating her cub. And the young male, strong, confident, protective, the same cub now grown. The two lions didn't approach. They simply remained there, watching, guarding. For 10 long minutes, they stood sentinel while the shadows swallowed the fleeing hyenas. Then, when the sound of an approaching rescue vehicle reached the air, they turned. The lioness looked back once. Their eyes met across the grass. No sound, no movement, only a quiet recognition. You saved mine. Now we've saved you. Then they vanished into the acacias as silently as they had come. When the other rangers arrived, Alex could barely speak. He just stared at the horizon where the lions had disappeared, his hands trembling. That day, the savannah had written its own truth. That kindness is remembered, that debts of mercy are always repaid, and that even among predators, trust is a language that needs no words.